No fire, no jacket, no heater. Just you, alone, in a winter that wants you dead. This is how our ancestors didn't just survive that world, they'd beat it. And some of their tricks are so strange, so clever, that modern survivalists still can't fully explain how a species with no metal, no glass, and no technology managed to outlast an actual ice age. 40,000 years ago, ice sheets buried half the planet. In parts of ancient Europe and Siberia, temperatures dropped low enough to kill an unprepared human in under an hour. No shelter, no fire, no clothing, and you were finished before nightfall. And yet humans didn't just cling to survival in that world. They thrived in it, spread across it, and raised children in it, generation after generation. So how? The first trick sounds obvious until you realize how advanced it actually was. Early humans didn't just drape a dead animal's hide over their shoulders and hope for the best. They engineered clothing. Archaeologists have found bone sewing needles in Siberia dating back more than 40,000 years, proof that ancient people were cutting, shaping, and stitching fitted garments long before anyone thought to call it fashion. This wasn't decoration, it was survival technology. A loose hide lets cold air sweep straight through. A tailored, layered garment traps a pocket of warm air against the skin, and that pocket of air is often the only thing standing between a human body and hypothermia. Multiple thin layers, it turns out, insulate far better than one thick one, something ancient humans figured out tens of thousands of years before anyone wrote the words thermal layering in a textbook. But clothing alone wasn't enough. The real danger wasn't just cold air, it was wet cold. Get your furs damp in freezing temperatures, and you become colder than if you'd worn nothing at all, because wet material pulls heat away from the body many times faster than dry material does. So ancient people developed a fix that sounds almost unbelievable today. They rubbed animal fat directly into their skin and clothing. Grease rendered from seals, mammoths, or deer worked like a primitive raincoat, repelling moisture, sealing in body heat, and even guarding exposed skin against frostbite. Inuit hunters used this exact same method for thousands of years, right up into the modern era, because it simply worked. It wasn't primitive, it was functional chemistry, discovered by trial, error, and survival. Then there was fire, but not fire the way you're picturing it. In many Ice Age camps, archaeologists have uncovered circular hearths sitting at the exact center of ancient shelters, with sleeping areas arranged around them like spokes on a wheel. Entire families didn't just build a fire nearby, they built their whole living space around it, positioning themselves so every single body captured a share of the heat through the night. One controlled fire, tended carefully so it never grew too large or burned out too soon, could keep an entire family alive until sunrise. Miss that balance, and the difference between waking up and freezing to death could come down to a few logs. Shelter itself became a puzzle when the environment stopped cooperating. Across the open tundra of what is now Ukraine, archaeologists uncovered something almost impossible to believe: houses built entirely out of mammoth bones. Dozens of massive bones, skulls, tusks, and limb bones, stacked and arched together like the ribs of some giant creature, then covered in hides to seal out the wind. There were no trees for miles in that landscape, no timber to build a frame, so ancient humans built with the only large structural material the frozen plains actually offered them: the skeletons of the animals they had hunted. It sounds like something out of a myth. It kept entire communities alive for generations. Then food was the next battle, and it was arguably the hardest one. Winter didn't just bring cold, it brought scarcity. Plants died back, animals scattered or hibernated, and hunting became far less reliable. So ancient humans essentially invented the freezer tens of thousands of years before anyone plugged one into a wall. Meat buried in permafrost or packed into natural ice caches dug into frozen ground could stay preserved for months without spoiling. Some groups deliberately killed extra prey in the autumn, not because they were hungry that day, but specifically to freeze it and store it for the lean months still to come. It's the exact same logic behind the freezer sitting in your kitchen right now. Ice Age humans just figured it out roughly 30,000 years earlier. Cold wasn't only an enemy either. In some cases, ancient tool makers turned it into a tool of its own. Certain types of stone become easier to shape after repeated cycles of extreme heat and extreme cold, a process that essentially pre-cracks the material along weak points. Ancient tool makers appear to have exploited this, deliberately exposing stone to freezing temperatures before napping it into blades, scrapers, and spear points. Winter, in that sense, wasn't just something to endure. For people paying close enough attention, it was something to use. Even sleep became a survival strategy. In the coldest regions, groups often slept huddled together in tight clusters, sometimes under a single large shared hide. Body heat multiplied across several people packed close together could raise the temperature inside a shelter enough to make the difference between a survivable night and a fatal one. It's a strategy still used today by anyone caught outdoors in an emergency without proper gear, and our ancestors were doing it as a nightly routine, not a last resort. What's remarkable is that none of these tricks worked in isolation. Tailored clothing kept the body's own heat close. Animal fat kept moisture from destroying that insulation. Fire, positioned and managed with precision, gave a controlled source of extra heat. Bone-built shelters blocked the wind when timber wasn't an option. Frozen food storage carried communities through the months when hunting failed. And even the cold itself, understood well enough, became a resource instead of just a threat. Layer by layer, ancient humans didn't outmuscle the Ice Age, they outthought it. So the next time it's freezing outside and you're reaching for a thermostat without a second thought, remember this: someone tens of thousands of years ago faced the exact same cold with nothing but a bone needle, a smear of animal fat, and a carefully tended fire. And they didn't just survive the Ice Age, they mastered it well enough to raise children in it generation after generation, until that same resilience became the reason any of us are here at all. And if ancient humans could out-engineer an entire ice age with mammoth bones and animal grease, it raises an even bigger question. What other secrets did they figure out that history has almost completely forgotten?